last couple of weeks is when Gladys appointed Shane Fitzsimmons as the Resilience Commissioner. I think that's possibly the best news that, we could see in New South Wales. Can I, say also, just in relation to all of this issue, I want to apologise for the confusion and anyone who's been upset in the last 24 hours about this. I think that's really important. I do want to apologise for anyone who's been upset, confused by what's happened. But, importantly, Glad wants to get on with the job. We've got such important work to do around fire recovery, particularly with Shane Fitzsimmons now coming into the resilience role. We've got good things happening. To hear Labor's candidates say, everyone's been forgotten. Take a drive. Come to Malua Bay and see what's being cleaned up. See the pods being delivered, which is a partnership between the state and Minderoo. Don't put it down because we've got to motivate people up, and don't use it for your cheap political purposes, because I'll call it out.
You mentioned it was a confusing thing.
24 hours, yeah.
Yeah, confusing 24 hours. What do you have to say to the people who sort of were like, is he okay?
I want to thank everyone who's messaged me this morning. But when I said politics is stuffed in this country, and some of the people in it need to have a long, hard look, I meant it. And we've now seen that in such a great way on the front page of the Telegraph. Stuff that. Seriously. I hadn't signed up to, contest federally to be called that type of smear. Yeah, and obviously, I don't believe John means it. I had that discussion with him. But, the point out of it is that it's in the paper. Labor will play games with it every day of the week, and that's not what our community needs at the moment.
Do you feel undermined by your colleagues in this?
I think, to be honest with you, I'd say this. It's important there's coalition unity in order to contest this by-election. And part of that is that it by rights, and I will stand by whoever's pre-selected, because I think, we have seen the benefit over the years. It wouldn't matter if it's Mike Kelly or Gary Nairn. If you've got a member in government, you can really turbocharge Eden-Monaro. And I'd say that to everybody. So whoever's successful, the Liberal Party pre-selection, I'm going to stand by them. But I also say this, I think people have had a gutful of this stuff. I've had a gutful of it. And, look, I know John didn't mean it, in that discussion I had with him today, but I just think ultimately, where's this all benefit? And, look, I just apologies to anyone who I've upset or confused in the last 24 hours.
You've been pretty open about the toll that the bushfires has taken on your mental health.
Yeah.
Your behaviour over the past 24 hours. Are you okay?
Yeah, I've been open and honest about that. And, the thing about it is that, by being open and honest about it, I actually think there's things that need to happen. And as I said yesterday, I think this is really very important. One, we can't have thousands of traumatised Australians without a national approach around how we get through a bushfire disaster like this. And I think when we start to see the restrictions lifted and we start to see the services at a grassroots level being able to have that face-to-face contact, I'm very worried about what we're going to wake up to. It's going to be very sobering. It's going to take a long time. So, I think that's really important. I was concerned during the fires based on personal experience and seeing, and hearing what I am now. I heard a story the other day of someone who can't stand the burn piles that are going on people's blocks at the moment. I know people who can't walk into homes with fireplaces and seeing, fires in fireplaces. All these triggers. So, yeah, I've been honest about that. But do I think this is having any effect on my ability to do my job? I'll just say this. Anyone who wants to criticise me for being emotionally fragile and upset and traumatised after New Year's Eve, they're a disgrace. You know, I've seen it in writing, and I'll be saying to those people, wake up to yourself, because when people go out and do the right thing by each other and ask how they are, versus people trying to demonise me because I dared do that, because that was some sort of, weakness. That's not the type of strength you want in your politicians if, you know, they're going to allow people to do that and say that. You know, that's the problem. We're trying to destigmatise these things. And we've got, you know, big, strong people out there who think that it's okay to run around and play politics with it. Oh, I don't care. I just think it's, you know, silly.
Was it only front page of the Daily Telegraph today?
Yeah, because, yeah, absolutely. So I'd say to anybody who thinks otherwise, and any commentator who wants to speculate around this, very clearly, if you get called that on the front page of the paper heading into a neck-and-neck by-election, and that smears there, how can you bring about the unity and clarity to be able to deliver that? I mean, that type of white-handing doesn't just stop with that front page. It goes on and on. So, you know, look, let's be realistic about it. I mean, you can't sort of front up and you know, hand on heart say, yeah, everything's okay when... And I think, to be honest with you, I mean, as I said yesterday in reflection with John, I mean, we won't let any of this rubbish get between being mates, but it is very, you know, it's pretty poor. Yeah, absolutely, it's disappointing. It's humiliating.
Work with him going forward now?
Pretty easy. We're mates, so it's just like, you know, I forgive him, but...
Do mates call each other that, though?
Not really. But, I mean, the thing about it is that we've cleared it up. I just think, ultimately, you know, politics needs good people to go into it moving forward. And when you see, you know, your name associated with that type of language on the front page of the paper, anyone thinking about entering politics, regardless of whether it's Liberal, Labor or anyone else, you know, they just think, why would I do that?
And future for Andrew Constance,
Well, I've got one thing. One thing that you know, is important in all of this. You know, Glad's a pretty good premier to work for. Like, she's one of the best, and she's going to be there for a long time. So, you know, I did make it clear I wasn't going to contest 2023, and I've been honest about that. But we've got a lot of recovery work to do, which I want to zero in on. Obviously, as a senior minister in the government, continue to give that support to our premier and, most importantly, to the community in the state. I think around here, certainly locally, being able to use that role to be able to really strong arm some good results. I mean, we've got hundreds of millions of dollars being spent, and, you know, ultimately I want to continue to see that flow. We've got a Southeast Regional Hospital that has to get built. We've earmarked a site now, and also as part of that, the clinical service planning around that facility will be at level 4 capacity, which is important news. I do want to acknowledge Dr. Holland, who was involved in that clinical service planning as well. And, you know, I do take great joy out of reading his Facebook posts, but, you know, it's coming. You know, it is coming. And, you know, we've got a bit to say about that. I also note that another particular radio station sort of run this campaign with someone saying, oh, we should be building the hospital, not the bypass at Maria. You need the bypass to unclog the logjam in Maria in order to facilitate great access to the community with the hospital. So you've got to build both. They're both funded, so let's just get on and push that.
Certainly always been very close with Gladys and constantly being her champion. What was her reaction to this?
You know, this is a good thing about Glad. She embraces and she encourages, and she says, make sure that this is right within your stomach and your guts. And, you know, I mean, look, she's great. Like, she's not someone who's fazed by political machinations. One thing I do think she would expect of John and I is to sort this out and get on with it. Sorry? Yeah. I think the conversation's one who's fruitful. But, you know, with Glad, she really just, you know, she's a remarkable leader by bringing people together and getting results. And I think if you look at COVID and the way she steered this state, the communities, she's got one of the lowest rates of infection in the world in this jurisdiction, and that hasn't happened by accident. Well, I mean, again, they've still got the opportunity to pre-select a candidate and endorse a candidate. So what, in the space of 24 hours, I indicate I was, and then you read the paper like I did this morning, you go, nah, stuff that. I think in terms of it, I'm sure, Labor will be rubbing their little hands together. But, they forget, they forget this is all about the community. And the challenge for the pre-selectors is to select the candidate who is going to, in many ways, be indicative of community values and where the community's at. When there's a whole raft of issues which are very important to this community throughout the region. It wouldn't matter if it's issues to do with climate change or the economy or jobs or how young people are, responding to the COVID and fire recovery.
But can the Liberal Party win the seat now?
Look, absolutely. I think the thing about that is that, I think people are responding to where the Prime Minister's been at with the COVID crisis. And I think that whoever that person is, I will assure them that I will strongly get in and embrace the campaign and the, support their efforts. Because I do believe it important. And I would say this to the people of Eden-Monaro. If you look at the great members that we've had over the years, from Mike Kelly, Gary Nan, Jim Snow, the most powerful times that they've had is when they're in government. They're actually part of the government benches because the access is different. That's just the reality. Your ability to advocate directly is stronger, and certainly in terms of getting results, that's very important too. And
Andrew Constance there at Malua Bay this afternoon, and referenced white anting from colleagues and the front page of the Daily Telegraph, which called him an expletive we won't repeat today, but quite clearly believed that white anting would continue. So a bit of context as to why he's pulled out less than 24 hours after he put his name in the ring for the seat of Eden-Monaro.